In this tutorial, we will be exploring a case study where an additional piece of equipment is configured into the network to be implemented after a designated time frame. So in this case, let's say that pumps 1 and 2 are already incorporated into the network, and pump 3 is a new addition to the network. Pump 1 has a flow configuration of 1,000 barrels per hour. Pump 2 has a max rate of 500 barrels per hour, and the new pump 3 has a configuration of 700 barrels per hour. Our feeder has a supply rate of 2,000 barrels per hour. So at the beginning of the simulation, the network will only be able to handle 1,500 barrels per hour out of a potential of 2,000. And since pump number 3 will have a greater capacity than pump number 2, our primary flow priorities will go to pump 1 and pump 3, and pump 2 will be a secondary priority as a reserve pump. So let's change the priority on our splitter, so that way split number 2 has a lower priority than splits 1 and 3. And now since pump 3 is connected into the system, but we want to have a delayed activation for the piece of equipment, let's go to Schedule Events, where we can configure a release date for that piece of equipment. So first, let's edit our Schedule Events folder to be Equipment Release Dates. We'll create a new scheduled event that we'll name Pump 3 Activation. We want to apply this event to our pump of pump number 3. The type, we will fix the rate change to 0 barrels per hour because we'll have it as release date, and therefore all the time leading up to that release date, the pump will remain inactive. So we'll set a time constraint so we can schedule our release date by calendar date. The frequency, we don't want to repeat this item, so everything in the frequency setup we will set to 0. And the time constraint, we will select a calendar date with a start date sometime before the start of the simulation. So our simulation begins October 1st, 2019, so let's pick the date of September 1st, 2019. So that way, whenever the model begins, the rate for pump number 3 will already be set to 0 barrels per hour. And the stop date for this event is our activation date, which we will set for 1 month after the start of the simulation, so November 1st, 2019. So let's save our model and run it in the standalone engine. So as we can see from our running simulation, our feeder has a capacity to send 2,000 barrels per hour, but it's currently sending only 1,500, which is being sent through our splitter, being divided to pump 1 at its max capacity of 1,000, pump 2 at its max capacity of 500, meeting together at the final destination of our supply of 1,500 barrels per hour. And if we look to our splitter, we can see our two priorities of first priority being allocated to pump 1 and pump 3 by the 1 dot, and second priority of the 2 dots being allocated to pump number 2. Pump number 3 is currently inactive, noted by the lime green color, but if we speed up our model to get to the 1st of November, we'll see it activate and we should see a redistribution of material allocation. And there we go. Now that we've crossed over into November, we can see that the material has been redirected so that pump 1 is at its max capacity. Pump number 3, now activated, is at its max capacity of 700 barrels per hour, and the remaining 300 is allocated to our second priority split, which is pump number 2, to meet our maximum capacity for our network.